Good evening and welcome to the show. Another week, another live show. Excuse me. Welcome to the internet's favorite live fountain pen show. At least it's my favorite, and I hope some of yours as well. I want to say hello to everyone. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. And we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I see a lot of the usual suspects in the comments. Welcome, everyone. A special welcome to the members of this channel. Membership is a lot of fun on this channel. We're currently doing a pen pal letter exchange at the top tiers of the membership right now. So everyone gets a nice handwritten letter from me. Hopefully some of you have received them already. I mean, maybe not. I'm sure the mail is a little bit behind this time of year, but the letters are out and I think you'll enjoy them. I spent quite a bit of time on each of them. So it's not like you're getting a few sentences. You're definitely getting a couple pages. So I hope you enjoy that. So thank you to the members. If you'd like to be a member, you can go to youtube.com/HemingwayJones/join, or go where you can subscribe and you'll see a join button. So I'd love to have you behind the scenes. It's a lot of fun. You also get a nice little section thanking the members at the end of each video. So very good stuff. I see that Jim Kerrigan got his letter today. So Jim, you can tell everyone that it wasn't just a couple of sentences, that you actually got a serious heartfelt letter. So a lot of fun. Love to see you there. So good stuff. Benjo's excited to get his. I actually mailed yours today, so it's going to be a bit for that. So we're going to have a fun show tonight. What I thought we'd do is talk about those must-have iconic pens that every fountain pen aficionado either has to own or try at some point in their fountain pen experience. Now, you guys know it's a bit of a contradiction, but I'm not particularly materialistic. And I know channels like mine, it really seems like everything is focused on acquisition. Like you have to try the next thing and this different thing, this new nib. Certainly I'm guided by curiosity, so I'm always wondering what the next thing is to try, but it's not necessarily my recommendation that you're constantly buying new pens. I actually think it's fantastic if you have a handful of pens and you enjoy each one and get a fulfilling experience out of it. So I always feel a little guilty, and I also want you all to know I'm very much aware of my own contradictions. So I'm not telling you to go be materialistic and buy these pens, but I also know on some level that I'm telling you all to be materialistic and go buy these pens. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, we can start. And I'm trying not to be too distracted by the amazing comment section. Actually, I do want to say something about my comment section, my commenters and members. This channel is the friendliest corner of the internet I've ever seen. I am surprised when a troll goes into our comments. The comments are so supportive, so interesting, with people contributing their own knowledge, their own experiences, doing it in a really heartfelt way and supporting other members and supporting me. I never claim to know everything. This whole channel is about an experience of discovery, of learning new things, and you guys coming along for the ride. And I just love each and every one of you in the comments that's doing that same thing. So I've never seen a fight. I've never had to mediate anything. You guys are all lovely and supportive and fantastic, and really haven't seen a troll in a while. I'm probably now going to see one now that I said that. But it's been really good, and I have experience on other platforms that are much more let's say unfriendly, if you will. And even in reading the comment sections of some other YouTube channels and different genres and things, I just think you guys are outstanding. And I appreciate the friendship and the spirit that you bring to this hobby. I just think our subscribers are great. So, thank you. So, one of the things we're going to cover tonight are these iconic pens. I'm going to talk a bit about the channel, sort of plans for 2023, for the rest of the year. I'm going to mention a couple of inks that I've recently bought. I've been kind of on an ink discovery journal lately. Journey. Got journal in the mind. So I've been really going down a different kind of rabbit hole with inks and really enjoying it. And I've discovered some interesting new stuff that's a bit far afield for me. These are not names of ink brands that I've generally tried before. So we'll talk about that as well. So really good stuff. I see Simon's here, John Manuel, Judy Anderson, Benjo, Wolf Seat Witch, who is about to make a major acquisition. We're not going to say what, but it's very interesting. Gino's out there, Coffee and Barbells, all the usual suspects. I thought I saw Wolverine earlier. I hope he's here. If not, my heart always goes out to Wolverine. There he is. I see him. I had to scroll up, but he's definitely there. Okay, so let's get into the main part of the show, and that is those icons, those incredible pens that we all see and probably have used, lusted after, been curious about, maybe owned for a short time and felt slightly disappointed and passed on. So that is what I'm speaking about tonight. And in thinking about this list, I'm thinking about the true icons. So there might be ones that you're sitting there saying, I can't believe he didn't mention that pen. And you're probably right. I might be skipping some, but I think that this is the core iconic collection of pens that every fountain pen enthusiast should experience. And I think I'd have to start with the Pilot Metropolitan. Now, the Pilot Metropolitan is a fantastic pen. It's one of Pilot's entry-level pens, the Kakuno being probably the entry-level fountain pen. And the Metropolitan goes for somewhere around the $20 range. You get quite a bit of pen for that. The fit and finish is really good. I've had a bit of a disagreement with mine. You guys know I wasn't the most enthusiastic about it. I bought it because I just heard so much from you guys just urging me to try it, and then I got it, and I was a little bit disappointed. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad pen. You know, sometimes you just get a bad version. So I also worked on the nib, as one does, and I got it to open up, and now we've been getting along much better. Mine is plain silver, but very lovely, very nice, very well made. I'm not the biggest fan of the squeeze converter, but hey, they're basic and they work. And they work and they're fairly reliable, and that's about all you can say about them. But, you know, nice writing experience. The fine is very fine. It's great for putting a lot of writing in a space, especially if you're writing in a small journal. So absolutely lovely, interesting pen. I probably should have gone a little bit more interesting in its style. There's some great orange ones out there with fantastic style and things. You know, I don't know why I picked the silver necessarily, but, you know, I did. So one of the things I was going to show you, I'll show you later some journaling ideas. But when you talk about the Metropolitan, you'll have to almost, in the same breath, mention the iconic Lamy Safari. It is such a great pen, such an interesting pen, but also a bit polarizing. It is a really nice size, a fantastic sort of Bauhaus design, a really nice nib that's easy to service, really smooth and interesting and just great. Now, my big contention with the Lamy Safari is the grip section. I am not the biggest fan of that ergonomic grip. It's really tough to get your fingers in there, and I have since sort of adapted to it by putting my finger on the side of where the grip is and sort of pretending that it's not cylindrical, or that it is cylindrical rather, because I just don't find it that comfortable. In fact, if I were to create a product, like a Hemingway Jones branded product, the one idea I have is, and I'd probably instantly get a cease and desist from Lamy, but it would be a cylindrical piece that would match your Lamy Safari and make it a little bit more comfortable for me. So that is something I dream of. But still, Lamy Safari, excellent pen, comes in more colors than the rainbow. It is an incredibly durable pen. It's really great for just tossing into your bag and not even thinking about, which is great. Just incredible, reliable pen. And I think it's one of those pens that you get really affectionate about. It becomes part of your life. You get carried around. It gets a little dirty, maybe a little scratched up, and you just get sort of close to it. It's just so reliable and such a fun pen. Consequently, I have two sort of atypical nibs on mine. I have the calligraphy nib, which is their 1.1 stub that they call their calligraphy nib. And then I have that, I'm trying to remember the exact name. It's the black one with the kanji script on it that's cursive italic on my white one. And they're both really interesting, absolutely brilliant nibs and a lot of fun. So I see a lot of love in the comment section for Lamy Safaris, maybe even more than Pilot Metropolitans. But I'll have to say that Pilot is a fantastic company. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Metropolitan, there are so many iconic models that Pilot puts out, which would be a great sort of precursor if I were talking about a Pilot next, but sadly I'm going to Kaweco. So much for really smooth transitions. So I think another pen that you just have to try or own is the Kaweco Sport. And the Kaweco Sport is such a charming little package. It comes in a little sardine tin, beautifully packaged. It fits together really small and tight when you're in storage. You can put it in your pocket, barely feel that you have it, toss it into a backpack, whatever you need to. Fantastic pen with an absolutely smooth and brilliant nib. Everything Kaweco does is top-notch. They're one of my favorite companies. It's also really easy to swap out nibs and nib sections with those, which is super fun as well. So I have it in several different colors. I actually have sort of winter colors and summer colors, which is very, very nice. Also, you have to mention the brass version. That is just such a fantastic pen. Now, I think when you think iconic, you're thinking more the plastic, the frosted version. But the brass one is just so brilliant, so fun, and so tough. I think you could take that brass pen and toss it off the side of a mountain and retrieve it, and it'll be fine. You could drag it behind your car. It probably would look even more interesting. Just absolutely bomb-proof pen. Fantastic for travel. Really great for hiking if you go out in the great outdoors. If I were to go, and I guess maybe I'm pushing this a little, but say if I were to go out in the desert and, camp out, something like that, I would take that with me. Such an incredible pen. So I love that Kaweco Brass Sport. And I see a lot of guys here. Ben Joe remarking about the Kaweco converter that holds a day's worth of ink. You're not wrong there. That little sort of plunger converter does not hold a lot of ink at all. It's, in a way, I'm trying to look at that as a positive. And it's the whole fact that at least you can change inks regularly, but that's not a good reason if you're traveling, right? It's sort of the Achilles tendon, or Achilles heel rather, of that pen. It's the major vulnerability when you think of it as a travel pen. Like, it's fantastic, it's tough, you can throw it in your bag, but you can only write about 2 days with it. You're almost better off if you were to use a converter with an ink syringe and get a bunch more, not a cartridge, sorry, with an ink syringe, and get a lot of ink in it that way. So that's a really good point, actually. But on the other hand, at least they have a converter for it, considering that it is so small. So I think that's a positive. But you're right, it really doesn't hold much ink at all. So that's a really, really good point. So I think my next one is from one of my favorite companies, but it's funny, it's a bit of a cheat, because if you could see my notes, and I do have notes, because last week when I did my list, a year in pens, there were two really important pens that I forgot. So I wanted to have just a list to make sure I didn't forget any this evening. So I didn't decide which one is the most iconic, and I have them both listed. So I'm going to pick one and go with the TWSBI Diamond 580. Now I want to go eco, and I don't know which one's more iconic, the eco or the Diamond 580, but they are both brilliant pens. And part of the reason why I don't know which one I should say, I mean, actually, I'm a bigger fan of the eco. I feel like if you write with an eco, you kind of don't need a Diamond 580. It's a better pen. It has a better nib. It's bigger. It's got a little better finish. But the eco and the experience of writing with the 580 are so similar. Why pay more than double for a 580? Even though I think the 580 is probably technically more iconic. Am I making any sense with that? But the eco is it's just brilliant. And I think I had the 580 first, so I have a lot of affection for that too, but I never bought another one, and I own, I think, 3 different ecos with different nibs. So, I don't know, guys. But TWSBI certainly has become one of those iconic pens that everyone should experience, because you get so much value out of a pen that's relatively inexpensive. For the eco, it's $35. For the Diamond, it's like $70. And it writes as well as some pens that cost $500 or more. So where do you get that? You don't often get that in a hobby at any level. I guess you could sort of relate it to something like getting a really nice like Seiko SKX in the watch world, where you pick one up for, at least you used to be able to pick one up for $200, and it was diver certified and quite an extraordinary watch for a very little bit of money. So it's just one of those things, though, that I think everyone needs to own a TWSBI, and I think once you do, you don't evolve beyond it. It's not like you say, "Oh, I don't use TWSBIs anymore. I only write with whatever," because any other pen is on the same level. They're absolutely, absolutely brilliant. John Lopez is asking, are TWSBIs still prone to cracking? You know, it's never happened to me. I have subjected mine to all sorts of things. It's never happened, but I would imagine that being a plastic pen, if you put it in any kind of pen or any kind of damaging to plastic situation, you could have that issue. And also, you know, I'd be really careful with alcohol. Alcohol is really bad with TWSBIs. They don't interact well at all. And I don't know how hand sanitizer would be, but I think you'd probably want to be careful with that as well. But I've never had that issue, but I've certainly heard about it. But I've yet to see it, you know? Now, Neil said 1 out of 3 crack for him, so it does happen. It does happen, my friends, but never happened to me. So, one of the other pens that I wanted to mention that I think everyone needs to experience at one time is the Pelican M200 or M205, depending on the trim level that you enjoy. And the reason I picked sort of more one step up from entry level is that Pelicans are brilliant. And that M200, you get a lot of pen for the money. Now, remember the whole cap situation. The cap likes to untwist. You gotta be careful if you're going to clip it to your lapel pocket. But short of that, the writing experience is absolutely brilliant. And Pelicans are such beautiful pens. They're very elegant. It's amazing to get a Piston fill pen around the $130 mark. That's absolutely brilliant. I think in the realm of pens, it's just outstanding because I feel like it's a bit of a desert. When you get to around the $70 range, you have things like the TWSBI Diamond 580, you have the TWSBI VAC, which is great. And then, where's your like $100 to $200 iconic pens? Almost thought the Pilot E95S, but I don't feel like that's iconic. I feel like that's a bit of an outlier. I don't think it's popular enough, that pen. I absolutely love it. And I think one day, maybe 5 years from now, we'll be doing this show and we'll be looking back and we'll say, wow, what an icon the E95S is. But I think currently, it's just kind of not there. But the Pelican hasn't changed much. Certainly not visually since it was first made. And I have it in the green marble. I really like the green stripe ones. Absolutely brilliant color. I have an M600 in red tortoise as well. I don't have anything else. I'm very curious about the larger ones. That's certainly something I'd like to get as well, like an M800 or an M1000, 1000. But I'm trying to tone down my ambitions, guys. This is going to be a year of sort of getting to know the pens I have and luxuriating in them, even as I know I'm getting pens for Christmas. But just trying not to go too crazy, but certainly enjoying it. But so that Pelican M200, it's an actual exquisite writing experience. I have it in a fine, and it's a fantastically smooth nib. I just adore it. I really do. And I recommend it. So, our next one, which I think is a true icon, and one of those pens that really changes the game for fountain pens, and that's the Pilot Vanishing Point. I think it has truly become an icon and just reshuffled the deck in fountain pens. The fact that it's under $200, it has a gold nib, the writing experience is extraordinary. And it has this very sort of democratic, easily accessible tool-like aspect to it. So that you can clip it to yourself, you can write in any situation. It's just really extraordinary. With the one drawback being where the clip is. I mean, you certainly adjust to it quickly, but for some people, having the clip up by the nib is rather odd. I personally anchor my first finger there while I write, and I find it very comfortable and very easy to use, and I love the bit of bounce to that nib. You can't really say flex because you're not really getting any kind of line variation, but it's a very soft, flexy, interesting writing experience. So that Pilot Vanishing Point, absolutely exquisite, and I think an absolute icon. Just a great, great pen. I see John saying he wishes it had larger ink capacities. I agree with that. Any Con 40 converter or the like, they just don't hold a lot of ink. I'm trying to spin it, and I don't mean it in a sense that I want you to come along, but for me, I get so many inks that arrive and I want to try them that I try to look at it as a positive, like, oh well, I can put something new in it. I just got a nice Serenity blue today, so haven't had a bottle of Serenity blue in a long time, so that'll be fun. So if I had blue in it, I might put that in there next or something. So I try to look at it in a positive way. I try to look at everything in the pen world as positively as I can. A pen sort of has to convince me that it's bad. There are certainly some things in pens that do leap out, like some of my Jin House not writing out of the gate. To me, that's a bit of a major disruption because I see a lot of Jin House as fantastic beginner pens, but if it doesn't write right away, then how do you recommend that to someone who's just getting started out in fountain pens? Because they might not have the best experience. Somebody more experienced will work on the nib, it'll be smooth, and in a week or two they'll be happy with it. So something like that. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Maybe the Pilot Falcon, the one I have with the flex nib, it's not very enjoyable. It's actually for $200, I prefer something like the Blue Dew or the Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya with the flex nib over it. And certainly some of the other flex nibs. So just some ideas there. I see a lot of love for Serenity Blue. Fantastic, fantastic color. So yes, Pilot Vanishing Point, one of my favorites. And it was also one of the pens that I forgot to speak about in my year in pens. I got the matte black Vanishing Point as a gift from Brendan Schmidt over at Atlas Stationers. So very lovely of him. And I've been writing with it quite a bit. It's one of those perfect office pens. If you think of pens and what you use them for, going into the office, absolutely brilliant, that pen. So certainly love it. All right. So our next pen is one that I don't own. It's one I've written with once, and it is kind of at the edge of my grasp right now, and that is the Lamy 2000. I think it's an absolute icon. It's probably some kind of a tragedy that I don't own one. I mean, it's brilliant that it's piston filled. It has an absolutely incredible nib, but it's also kind of a hooded nib, and I have issues with those. Historically, I have trouble finding the nibs when it's hooded. It's just not intuitive to me. Maybe it's called the Lamy 2000 because it'll be like 2,000 times before you can find the edge correctly. Probably would be for me. But it's absolutely beautiful. The fit and the finish and the sleekness of it. And to me, it looks very 1980s, which is perfect because I'm a child of that. Well, I wasn't a child. I was in my 20s in the 1980s, but I'm definitely culturally influenced by that aesthetic. So absolutely brilliant pen that I'd certainly love to own and may actually own very, very soon. So we'll see about that. So from the Lamy 2000, which I think is iconic and I think everyone should experience or own, yet I do not, to a pen that I do own that I feel like is almost the end all of pens. I feel like once you buy the Pilot Custom 823, you can certainly buy other pens, but you need not. It's that good. Now, I do have some criticisms. I don't like that it's kind of plasticky. It'd be great if they put out a resin version. Something a little tougher. Could you do metal? I don't know. It would kind of lose it. It'd be too heavy. Kind of lose that charm. I don't like that there's that bit of plastic that extends around the cap. It's a bit more than many other pens. I just worry if I should drop the cap, it's going to chip. So that's always been a fear. It might be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I probably shouldn't worry about it so much. But as a pen, I think it's an absolute icon. It's so much fun. I'll never forget when I first got it. And it came in a box with a nice bottle of Pilot Blue ink in this beautiful bulbous bottle with this fantastic opening with sort of a cage in there that cushions your nib so you can't damage it. And you plunge it in and stick the plunger down, and that initial hydraulic whoosh of ink as it floods the inside. And then if you're really careful and you can pull it back again, you just have to keep an eye on it and then fill it up completely. You can get quite a bit of ink in there. It's sort of the opposite of the Vanishing Point or the Kaweco. You probably get too much ink. You get bored of the ink. You have so much ink. You could write for weeks. Just an absolute brilliant pen. And I love it in amber. I believe it's called amber. It's right, smoke and amber. I really just love it, sort of brownish, coppery brownish. Right now I have ancient copper in mine. It just marries perfectly. You get this rather stiff but very smooth nib that's gold. And it's one of the most exquisite writing experiences. Now, I'd be curious to see what the fine's like. I've never written with a fine. Mine's a medium, and it's really quite narrow, quite precise. It's very much in that spirit of Japanese pens being thinner than European pens, and feels like a fine to me. But it's very, very, very smooth. So, absolutely brilliant. Okay. From there, we're at around $280, so just under $300. I'm thinking our next really iconic pen is another pen I don't own, but I strongly suspect I will own shortly. And that, my friends, is the Visconti Homo sapiens Bronze Age. A very interesting pen with the lava-based resin, with the incredible fill system, and the sometimes problematic nibs that you definitely want to ask some of your shops to check yours before it goes, or you may find yourself with a problem one. Now, I always felt like Italian pens are a little unhinged, and that's sort of what I love about them. I feel like the same way that German pens are so precise and sort of perfect, that Italian pens tend to just be wild and over the top and have things on them that you wouldn't necessarily expect. They're made out of resins that have lava dust in them, or the resins with cotton in them, like the pinnator, and things along those lines. Incredible embellishments, quill nibs, just unhinged, interesting things named after strange films or whatnot. So even the Homo sapiens is kind of an odd name for a fountain pen. I don't know why they named it that. Probably be interesting to research that. I'm sure I'll do a deep dive on it once it's in my hand. But it's certainly one of those iconic pens that I feel every pen aficionado should try at least once in their lives. So Ichiro says, I wonder what the proportion of lava to resin is. Yeah, I wonder that too. I mean, it's certainly enough to get the color in there and the texture. But is it on the outside with material on the inside? I don't know. I think you'd almost want to give it to the fellows from Mythbusters and have them do a cross-section or something, just to see what else is going on in there, because it's really an interesting design. I'd certainly love to see everything that's going on. So it's an absolutely brilliant idea, but it's a little unhinged. And that's what I find interesting about it. So I guess now we're at Visconti. Now I was trying to think of some more icons. I think maybe a runner-up is the Sailor King of pens, which is absolutely brilliant. I don't own it. Have dipped it once, so haven't had much experience with it. Would love to. But I think the last true icon to speak about is one that I think you guys are well acquainted with. Certainly if you've been watching my channel. And that is the Mont Blanc 149. Now, the curious thing about this is I think it's absolutely iconic. I think it's a pen that everyone should try. I love it myself. I don't know if I would pay full retail for it. I got mine as a gift from my lovely wife before she was my wife. I've had it for over a decade. It's been working, performing perfectly. It's one of my most reliable writers. I also find that I can ink it and sort of forget about it for a couple months. Go into the case, pull it out, unscrew the top, and it's going to write smoothly, quickly, and easily and perfectly immediately. No false starts or anything. Absolutely brilliant. Has the iconic ink window, which is a lot of fun. Although it's set so high, it kind of tells you you're running out, but you still have a bit more to go. So it's an absolutely fun pen. It's very girthy. So it's probably better for people with larger hands or people that like thicker pens. So if you use that 4-color pen with the red, green, blue, and black, back in high school, you might like the 149. It's quite a thick pen, but definitely comfortable, smooth, and beautiful. So if I were buying one now, I would probably look for it at Peyton Street or one of the used providers that stand behind their pens. Because $900, I mean, that's the price of entry. Is it worth $900? You know, value is a tough thing. $1,000 pen is a lot of money. If you get joy out of it and you write with it regularly, it's absolutely worth it. I mean, I wrote with it almost exclusively for a couple years, so it's brilliant. It really is. Now, I would suggest that if you don't think you'd like a thick pen, to go for the 146, because the only thing you're sacrificing with the 146 is you don't have that giant, what is it, number 9 nib that's on the 149. I think that's the 9 in 149. So you don't have the giant nib, but you do have another fantastically smooth, fantastic Mont Blanc nib in a much slimmer package. It's still not a super slim pen, but it's much slimmer than the 149 and equally iconic. You know, absolutely brilliant pen in its own right. So I really love the family. I love those pens, and I think they're just truly icons. So what do you think of my list? Is there anything I missed? I think there's some vintage pens we can talk about. I think the Waterman 52 is one of those vintage pens that everyone should experience. The Parker Vacuumatic, the 51, everyone should use those at one time. Though you may also have trouble finding the nib there. I often have a hard time orientating it. The Parker Duofold, a lot of Parkers. Maybe a Schaefer Snorkel for the fantastic ability to fill it up easily. Keep hitting something. I moved the microphone, by the way, guys, because I noticed in the last couple lives I had it up on the desk and I kept hitting the desk or moving things around on the desk. So I put it on a little table next to me. So hopefully the audio is a little bit gentler for you guys this time around. I'm always trying to work on a better experience for each of you. So there is that. So I think some of the vintage ones are, and I'd like to kind of share a new acquisition. I showed it last week, but I'm just really over the moon about this. So I don't think this is the original case, but I'm not an expert in pen cases. So this is a Waterman 5, and it did come in this really charming case, and I've been keeping it in here. And it's a lever fill pen. It's made out of celluloid, so it's very warm and organic. Has this really cool lever fill, but you do have to be careful because, as you guys know, lever fill pens, if you upset their stomachs, they get car sick, and the result is a big blob of ink on your page. And if you move them around too much, they tend to get car sick. So, as much as I say that fountain pens should be out in the sun experiencing the world, lever fill pens might be ones you want to leave at home, or at least consider the fact that you might end up with a messy page. But a very elegant pen, really nice cap, not too much celluloid past the ring. So it survived this long. It does post. It's already sort of scratched a bit from 100 years of posting. It does say Waterman's there. I don't know if you can make it out. Probably, possibly. Pretty neat. But one of the best things about it is it has this ideal red nib. I'll try to steady my hand here. This ideal red nib with a keyhole breather, and it's absolutely flexible. In fact, those of you who have received letters from me have received letters written in this pen. So if you're wondering what the pen was that can make some really good flex, so let's have a look. I'll try to do it, guys, but I'm gonna have to kind of do it strange. But just to give you an idea, it's kind of reversed, so it's a little weird. So if you write very lightly, you can get a fine line. So here we are, writing very lightly. Okay, so a nice sort of fine line. So now we're going to try to flex. This is not comfortable, so if I mess it up, forgive me. But I just want to give you an idea of the experience. It's amazing it's keeping up because it's not getting a lot of flow right now. You know, the ink is in the pen's being held like this, so the ink is working against the feed. But look, I'm able to pull that off. So that's how amazing a vintage flex is, you know? Because look, you see, I'm anti-gravity. It should be running out of ink pretty quickly. But, I mean, look at that flex, guys. Look, it's not, I mean, I should be writing like this, right? And it's just like going. Look at that. I love doing W's. If people get letters from me, and if you join the channel as an upper tier subscriber, you can be pen pals. But look at these W's. Oh, it railroaded. But you can't blame the pen. It should be writing like this, you know? But absolutely brilliant, guys. So it finally ran out of ink upside down. So, such a fun pen. I've really been enjoying writing a lot of correspondence. I've gone through a lot of different stationery as I've written it, but absolutely brilliant. By the way, I want to show you this ink color. So that's the ink color. What do you guys think of that? Pull out my ink library and to show you a bigger example. It's Scribo Rosso Chianti. I watched this Italian fountain pen channel whose name escapes me, and they showed this ink, and I just really liked it because it reminds me of Mont Blanc Bordeaux ink, if you remember the old Bordeaux ink. And I just love like the swatch looks very light, but the writing is really quite dark. So it's absolutely brilliant, brilliant, brilliant color. So I'm really digging it. I really am. And what is it? Diarmentius? I always forget the name, but this is Giacomo de Casanova. It's a oops this way. It's a sepia ink, and I put it in my Conway Stewart. So I've been enjoying that one. Just absolutely brilliant, brilliant ink. So a lot of new inks in the house. This is Emerald de Chivor by J.R. Bond, which is just amazing. This one. Don't have it in a pen right now, but I really love the color. And of course, Atlas Stationer's Iron Ore. Very nice. Very, very, very nice. So having a lot of fun with inks lately. Did the deep dive on blacks. I have a couple of new ones that I haven't opened yet that I'm very excited about. So, by the way, when you guys see these, like these swatches are sort of a thing I do. I don't even have a black pen handy, but it's a mental thing for me. It's not meant for like, oh yeah, that's the color. The writing is meant to show me the color. The swatch is more like me going, what am I feeling? What works with this pen? What complements it? Oh, I think I'll go with the Cornelon d'Egypte or the Diplomat Moss. I think I'll go with that. So it's sort of a match your pen to a swatch thing. So a lot of new stuff happening in the pen world. It's really funny with all the new pens I had. The pen that sort of swept them all away, and I can't take my hands off of this Waterman 5. It is just so fun, so extraordinary. Really puts me in that feeling of someone writing in the 20s or the 30s, especially now that I have pen pals and I'm exchanging letters on really nice stationery. It's holding the ink well, and I can really flex into it, go thin, go fat, and you'll see a broad range of my writing in those letters, from fat to thin and everything else in between. So very cool. Very cool. And I think I have some letters coming my way. Just a lot of fun. So that's one of the many benefits of being members. I also put back there some journal entry readings, some blooper reels, and some other stuff from time to time. Trying to figure out how to do a live just for the members. YouTube says I can do it, but I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. But that's something I want to do coming up. I also want to do a live like this more for people in Europe. So I'm going to try to do one this weekend or this week. I mean, this weekend's Christmas, but maybe this week. Oh, I just kicked the microphone. Sorry. Maybe this week around 4 o'clock Eastern time, which would be like 10 in Europe, or maybe a little earlier, like 2 o'clock or something, just to kind of say hello in real time so people aren't staying up till midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning just to see me. So really good stuff. So Neil has a question. I love questions, guys, so feel free to fire away. So why don't I like the Pilot Falcon? The reason is, Neil, that you kind of have to see it in history. At the time, it was hard to get a flex nib. And I'm thinking this was probably around when it first came out, or at least when it was popularized. So 2006 or 7 or so. I don't know if my memory is exactly right there, but we were using Waterman 52s and things and wishing we had a modern flex nib that would hold up, but be a little bit more robust than a vintage nib. And then you hear about the Pilot Falcon, and of course, people that can do calligraphy, you can do amazing things. But I'm looking more for the handwriting flex, and that's what vintage flex has, and I think there's a difference. I think the 146 is fantastic for calligraphy, probably the Pilot Falcon too. You can lean into it, do a line, wait, do a line. As you do calligraphy, you assemble beautiful letters. I'm actually taking some calligraphy classes. Not doing that great, but I'm working on it. So you need a nib that's a bit on the stiff side because it bounces back. I was looking more for handwriting flex, the way you would see vintage flex like a Watchman 52 or this Watchman 5, which you can see does it very easily. It's almost like writing with a brush. So it's just rather stiff. It railroads quite a bit. I don't think the feed is up to the task. Now, it may have changed. The one I have is 15 years old or something. But maybe it's not that old. Maybe it's like 10 years old. My sense of time is terrible sometimes. But whatever it is, it was just a huge disappointment. Mostly with the railroading and whatnot. But, you know, I just think if I were looking for something modern, I would go more for something like the Fountain Pen Revolution, which I think goes for about $40. And it's made in India. It's fantastic. Or the Blue Dew, which is, I think, $88 and also equally absolutely brilliant. So now, Wolf Seat Witch mentions that if you can get the nib with an ebonite feed, and I think, yes, I mean, you get something that's matched and can keep up, I'm sure it's absolutely brilliant. So, very good. I see Shane is here. Very good. Nice to see you. Oh, you guys, I could read the comments all night. So very good stuff. So, some stuff that's coming up on the channel. I think we're easing into the new year. Views on YouTube are kind of down, but I want to keep posting some stuff. I have a short video coming out next, on Friday, yeah, of my Bottega Obscura journal that I got as a gift. And then we're going to do another live next week, and I'm also going to try to do one earlier to get the European crowd. And then next Friday, right before New Year's, I've edited the year in pens, the live we did where I went through them. I've added some really nice B-roll. I've tightened it up. I've just focused on pens, added some music. So really nice, sleek presentation. It's still like 22 minutes long, but it has our whole discussion on the year in pens. And I know some of you have mentioned that it would have been nice to see the pens I was speaking about. So now you can see it all in one slick presentation with a nice thank you to all the members at the end. So that's a nice way to end the year, I think, talking about the year in pens. So that will go up next Friday. So very, very excited about that. So beyond that, we have one of my favorite videos I've made. And I'll tell you that my two favorites so far, I think, were the Churchill one, which was very documentary style, and that was a lot of fun. I thought it had a lot of heart. I like videos that have a certain emotional side to them. And the second one was the one in defense of cursive handwriting, which probably had my favorite sequence that was filmed all year. And that was when my daughter came over while I was journaling at Hammond Castle with the North Atlantic behind me on these pillars, very Game of Thrones-like setting. I'm in a tweed suit, my daughter's on my arm, and I was journaling, and she just wanted to see what I was writing, and we were talking, and I didn't even know my wife was filming, and it just captured this just really poignant, beautiful moment of a daddy and his daughter, you know, just perfect. And when I saw that in the footage, I knew I had to construct the entire video around it. And it's at the end, and most people don't make it to the end. If you look at your YouTube analytics, usually 30% drop off in the first 30 seconds, and then a lot of those people, they'll stick in, excuse me, until 2/3 in the video, and then pretty much everyone drops off. It's pretty much how it is for every video, for everyone, really. But if you did stick around for the end of that, I just found it so emotional. And I just, love that scene. And the same with the Churchill one. The Churchill had a really big ending. So I'm really glad the way that came out as a creator. And in this sense, I do mean it literally. I had a vision for it. I wanted to review the pen, but I also wanted to say something more. I think just regular pen reviews can be a bit dry. So I wanted to add a nice story, but I didn't want to necessarily do like a hagiography of Churchill. I just wanted to talk about something personal where we can all relate to. That regardless of how you feel about him, you can respect him for the fact that he had anxiety, he had fears, he still did what he had to do. And I think with so many of us dealing with issues and anxiety and panic attacks and whatnot, and we all do what we have to do. And I think the fact that someone who's put in this position like Churchill was, where he had to lead a country against this horrible aggressor, probably similar to like Zelensky now. Someday we may hear that Zelensky was, terrified and full of anxiety and depression this whole time, but you do what you have to do because you must. And that was the idea of that video. And to relate it to all of us, that were we in that position, hopefully we would make good decisions and we would do what we have to do. And I also think that journaling is a huge part of what keeps me grounded, keeps me happy, healthy, sane, introspective. And I have a really nice video coming out on journaling very early in the year as well. So we're going to explore a lot of really interesting stuff. So I see a lot of love for the Churchill video. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. Really do. Shane says, I did like the Churchill video a lot. Totally agree. Most pen review videos are rote. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too negative about other channels, but I sometimes feel like, yeah, they just go through the paces, and maybe there's a place for that. I mean, maybe if you're buying a pen, you just want to know the basics. But I know that you guys are very intelligent people, and you're more than capable of going to the website and reading for yourselves which nib size it comes in, how long it is, how much it weighs. It's all right there. You don't need me to tell you that. What you need me to tell you is, how does the pen make you feel? How does it add to your life? How does it inspire you? How does it differentiate itself from the rest? How does it make you a better, more effective communicator? What is your access point through that pen to the history of the brand, to the history of all fountain pens? Or what is the feature within that pen that's unique and interesting and compelling and makes it an absolute must experience pen? That's what you need me for. So, excuse me. Got a little bit of a cold, but it's not COVID, so don't worry. It's a 5-year-old who is sick like every other week, and I'm already getting over it. It takes me like 3 days to shake a cold, which is pretty good. So I have another one coming out, guys, that I think you'll like, and it takes everything we've ever spoken about. Choosing the right ink, choosing the right pen, the right setting, the right stationery, and in this case, to write a love letter. So it's a very personal video on how to write the perfect love letter. And I really had to push myself out of my comfort zone to do it. It's the kind of thing I would normally share with a smaller group, but I really wanted to sort of tie everything up in a really entertaining and interesting way. So I think you guys are really going to like that one. And that debuts January, early January. So I think you'll really, really like that. So, Judy Anderson, what you just said, Hemingway, I love this channel. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. I get my inspiration from you guys. So you make this a safe space for me. when I did that video a couple weeks back on how fountain pens saved my life and the overwhelmingly supportive comments from you guys, it was so moving and so, I hate to use a word, it's a bit of a cliche, but empowering. Where I felt like, okay, I can be more myself. And I think people appreciate it. So I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you guys. I hope you find a lot of this stuff entertaining. 2023 is going to be a fantastic year. There are some alliances that I'm forging with people that are getting stronger. I think the channel's getting more notice. You may have seen Adventure Denali was on our live. She's absolutely just so interesting, so nice, so supportive. I really love her channel. I think it's sort of similar to ours in the sense that it's not full on, dislocated hands reviews. It's more fountain pen lifestyle. And she is wholly herself and very expressive. And as we've seen in the comments, she's also very generous in her knowledge and in her attention. So very nice to have her on the channel. There's some other interviews I'd like to do. If you guys know of any subjects that you think would be interesting to see on the interview live, I'd certainly love to do that. There's another channel, I'm not quite ready to reveal it, but it's another storyteller that uses video in a very romantic place to tell very unique stories in an interesting way that will, I think, expose you guys to something sort of outside of our world, but very much related to it in regards to storytelling and opening up. So that'll be fun. We're going to do that interview sometime in mid-January. Neil Bell, bring it on, Hemingway. I've been watching for ages and recommending the channel to friends and aficionados. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate each of you guys promoting the channel. It's one of the reasons I made the first tier of membership ambassadors, because I feel like all you guys are ambassadors for the channel. So certainly the members should be called ambassadors. And I appreciate everything you guys do to support it. So Shane says, I hadn't seen her channel until I saw her in your last live, but I've since watched a few of hers. Yeah, see, that's what's really exciting about having another creator show up on a live. I mean, if she ever did a live, I would totally jump on her live. It would be fun. I mean, I'd love to interview her. I don't know if she'd ever be up for something like that, but, that kind of channel crossover, I think, is just great for everyone. And she has this great sensibility and this unmitigated, undiluted sense of self. And I think that's what really comes across with her. She is completely genuine. And I respect that because I love individuals and I love pen people. So it's hard not to get caught up in that. So really good stuff. Oh, Donna Ellis just became a member. Thank you so much. Welcome to the club. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Excuse me. Neil Spector. Hey, I love you guys too. Thanks, Neil. Very kind. I really appreciate that. Oh, thank you. So I'm hoping we have a lot more interaction with other channels. I mean, we're sort of getting close to the 5,000 subscriber mark. That's kind of a nice place to be. I am amazed that people are interested, and I'm very pleased. It's very motivating. And I'm going to continue doing those unique videos that you only find here. Remember, I'm not a pen company. I have no hidden agenda. I'm not trying to sell you anything. My opinions are my own. If I don't like something, you'll hear it. Even if somebody sponsors something and it's not good, I'll let you know. I have a responsibility to you guys. So it's nice to get some independent reviews, but not just reviews, but also opinions about which pens are good for what. Like, what are the best business pens? What are the best travel pens? What's a good pen for a formal experience, for signing a mortgage? Things along those lines. All of these are really important things, I think. Neil Bell, vulnerability is attractive. Perfection can be off-putting, my experience anyways. Well, I appreciate that. There's not a lot of perfection here, so I appreciate that. You know, one of the things I want to talk about, and it might be the subject of our next live, is kind of the philosophy behind pronouncing pen brands. And anytime you get into pronunciation and me, there's always issues. So that could be fun. So we'll talk about that. I tend to pronounce the same word like 4 different ways depending on my mood. So very interesting stuff. Very, very good stuff. So lovely, lovely stuff ahead, guys, in this Christmas season. Merry Christmas to you all. Happy New Year, but I'll see you before then. But I probably won't see you live before Christmas unless I get suddenly inspired and pop on the weekend. But I will be on next Tuesday night. I'm keeping to that Tuesday schedule. And there's a video coming out Friday. There'll be one coming out next Friday. And then we're kind of back to our regular sort of scheduled higher production videos like the how to write the perfect love letter, which will come out in January, and the one I'm working on now, which is on Walden Pond and journaling. I think you guys are going to really like it. It's really a good one. Yes, happy Hanukkah to everyone too. We are in Hanukkah too. So, well guys, I don't know if you can hear it, but my voice is about done. And I do try to keep to about an hour, so we're doing pretty good tonight. I want to thank everyone. Thank you for supporting the channel. Go watch one of my vids. Like one, leave a comment. Anything you can do, I'd appreciate. But more than that, have a very Merry Christmas. Gather your loved ones around you. Give them a big hug. Give them a lot of love. Have a happy Hanukkah. Give your uncle a break. Give him a hug if you haven't given him a hug in a long time. Gear up. There's going to be a lot of love in the coming year. I'm going to teach you how to write a love letter. You can send one to a family member if you're not in a relationship. I think you'll really like that. But sincerely, everyone, love you guys. Thanks for all the inspiration. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. I'll see you next Tuesday night. And by then, I might be showing you the Visconti Homo sapiens, Bronze Age. It's exciting, right? And whatever else I get. Love you guys. Take care.